Welcome back! This short lesson on residential mortgage loans is a primer for our subsequent lesson on mortgage-backed securities. Let's begin. A residential mortgage loan is a loan for which the collateral that underlies the loan is residential real estate. If the borrower defaults on the loan, the lender has a legal claim to the collateral property. One key characteristic of a mortgage loan is its loan-to-value ratio, the percentage of the value of the collateral real estate that is loaned to the borrower. So, for example, if the value of the collateral real estate is $1 million and the borrower took a loan of $700,000 to finance it, the initial loan-to-value ratio is 70%. The balance, $300,000 of the property's value, is the borrower's equity. For a lender, loans with lower LTVs are less risky because the borrower has more to lose in the event of a default. Also, if the property value is high compared to the loan amount, the lender is more likely to recover the loan amount if the property is liquidated in the case of a default. Conversely, a high LTV ratio is risky to the lender. The borrower does not have much to lose if he is unable to pay for the mortgage. Moreover, if the value of the property drops, the borrower's equity turns negative and the LTV ratio goes above 100%. The lender may issue a margin call, and if the borrower is unable to pay, he goes into default and the lender is unlikely to recover the full loan amount if the property is liquidated. This is the reason why most lenders will manage risk, not just by requiring a maximum LTV ratio, but also tailoring it to match the borrower's profile. In the United States, mortgages made to borrowers with good credit are termed prime loans. The borrower must have strong employment and credit histories and income sufficient to pay the loan obligation. LTV ratio requirements can be more relaxed for prime loans. In contrast, for borrowers with lower credit quality, LTV ratios should be more stringent. Mortgages to borrowers of lower credit quality or that have a lower priority claim to the collateral in event of a default are termed subprime loans. Typical mortgage terms and structures differ across regions and countries. The key characteristics of mortgage loans include their maturity, the determination of interest charges, how the loan principal is amortized, the terms under which prepayments of loan principal are allowed, and the rights of the lender in the event of a foreclosure. Let's examine each of them in more detail. The term of a mortgage loan is the time until the final loan payment is made. In the United States, mortgage loans typically have terms from 15 to 30 years. Terms are longer, 20 to 40 years in many European countries, and as long as 50 years in others. In Japan, mortgage loans may have terms of 100 years. How the interest rate on a mortgage is determined varies considerably among countries. The four basic ways that the rate can be specified are as follows. A fixed-rate mortgage has an interest rate that is unchanged over the life of the mortgage. An adjustable-rate mortgage, also called a variable-rate mortgage, has an interest rate that can change over the life of the mortgage. Such a rate is usually based on a market-determined reference rate. For example, the variable rate may be based on the 360-day LIBOR rate plus a 1% spread. The one-year US T-bill rate is another commonly used reference rate, although several other reference rates can also be used. An initial period fixed-rate mortgage may have an interest rate that is fixed for some initial period, but adjusted after that. If the loan becomes an adjustable-rate mortgage after the initial fixed-rate period, it is called a hybrid mortgage. If the interest rate changes to a different fixed rate after the initial fixed-rate period, it's called a rollover or renegotiable mortgage. A convertible mortgage is one for which the initial interest rate terms, fixed or adjustable, can be changed at the option of the borrower to adjustable or fixed for the remaining loan period. Another important term in mortgages is how the loan principal is amortized. With a fully amortizing loan, the loan principal is fully repaid by the maturity of the loan. Each payment includes both an interest payment and a repayment of some of the loan principal. When payments are fixed for the life of the loan, payments in the beginning of the loan term have a large interest component, and a small principal repayment component. And payments at the end of the loan terms have a small interest component and a large principal repayment component. A loan is said to be partially amortizing when the principal is not fully repaid at the end of the loan period. The loan periods include some repayment of principal, but are insufficient to fully repay off the principal. As such, together with the final loan payment, the remaining principal that is outstanding has to be repaid to settle the loan. This is called a balloon payment. With an interest-only mortgage loan, there's no principal repayment. As in this case, if no principal is paid for the life of the loan, it's an interest-only lifetime mortgage, and the balloon payment is the original loan principal amount. Other interest-only mortgages specify that payments are interest-only over some initial period, with partial or full amortization of principal after that. It is common for mortgage loans to allow partial or full repayment of principal in excess of the scheduled principal repayments. This is referred to as a prepayment. For example, if a homeowner sells his home during the mortgage term, prepayment is required to settle the loan. This involves repaying the remaining principal and the loan becoming fully settled. A prepayment is also required when a homeowner refinances the mortgage. The remaining principal amount is repaid using the proceeds of a new, lower interest rate loan. Some homeowners prepay by paying more than their scheduled payments in order to reduce the principal outstanding, reduce their interest charges, and eventually settle their loans prior to maturity. Some loans have no penalty for prepayment of principal, while others have a prepayment penalty. A prepayment penalty is an additional payment that must be made if principal is prepaid. This can be during an initial period after loan origination, or for some mortgages, any time during the life of the mortgage. A prepayment penalty benefits the lender by providing compensation for the foregone interest earnings. And the final term of a mortgage that we shall discuss is the rights of the lender in a foreclosure. A foreclosure happens when a borrower defaults on the mortgage loan. If the loan is a non-recourse loan, the lender has no claim against the assets of the borrower except for the collateral property itself. Sometimes borrowers voluntarily return the property to the lender in what is called a strategic default. This usually happens if the value of the property is lower than the outstanding amount owed to the lender. The lender in this case absorbs the loss due to the shortfall. However, if it is a recourse loan, the lender has a claim against the borrower for this shortfall. Understandably, borrowers are more likely to default on non-recourse loans than on recourse loans. In Europe, most residential mortgages are recourse loans. In the United States, some have recourse loans while others are non-recourse, depending on the applicable state laws. And that concludes this lesson on residential mortgage loans. This sets the stage for our next lesson on residential mortgage-backed securities. See you soon.